Okay. So now we begin with seeing the vertebral column. Now this is the first cervical vertebra in the neck. There are the cervical vertebra of the neck, there are the thoracic vertebra in the chest, there are the lumbar vertebra which are the posterior part of the abdomen, and finally there's the sacrum and the coccyx in the pelvis. So this first cervical vertebra basically consists of a posterior arch and an anterior arch. These two arches enclose a neural canal through which passes the medulla oblongata. There is a tubercle here, and from this tubercle to that tubercle, there extends a ligament, which is the transverse ligament of the atlas. Here lies the odontoid process around which this atlas can rotate like this, around which. So this is the socket and this is the ball. You can see this much better here. So this is the transverse ligament and this is the odontoid process of the second vertebra, and the atlas can rotate on this odontoid process so that you say no because of the movement of this joint. The skull can go this way and that way, no. Then one of the other important things is that the odontoid can fracture here and you need to fix it. The third thing that happens is that in the hanging, this whole atlas tends to slide forward, this ligament is ruptured, and this odontoid goes into the medulla, which is lying in this region, in this canal, and that causes sudden death. So that is known as the hangman's dislocation. That is called as hangman's dislocation. Okay. Then the next thing that you must understand is that these are the lateral masses. Above the lateral masses form the socket in which the occipital condyles rock. So if this is the socket and this is the occipital condyle, this occipital condyle rocks forward and backward. That means nodding of the head in form of yes. The axis of this occipital condyle is very important, because if you give traction in front, there will be extension, and if you give traction behind, there will be flexion. So when you are applying a skull traction, you want to be sure that the traction is applied exactly in the axis of these occipital condyles, which are rocking in these sockets or the superior facets of the lateral mass of the atlas. Lateral to this, you see these transverse processes, and these transverse processes bear a foramen which is called as the intervertebral foramen. The vertebral artery is rising actually in these foramens. It is rising in these foramens like this, and when it comes through the atlas foramen, it turns around like this. I hope you can see it. Turns around like this and passes into the spinal canal to enter the foramen magnum and supply the brain. So this is the course of the vertebral artery. And here is a membrane which is called as the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane, which connects this atlas to the posterior margin of the foramen magnum. And this posterior atlanto-occipital membrane is deficient here, so that this vertebral artery can enter into the spinal canal, and then it. So this is the vertebral artery, and after entering the spinal canal, it goes up, meets the artery from the opposite side, anterior to the medulla oblongata, and forms the the basilar artery. So this is the course of the vertebral artery, which is very important here. So this is the posterior atlanto-occipital membrane, and here you have the anterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Now on these arches, you have anterior tubercle and a posterior tubercle. The anterior tubercle connects the anterior longitudinal ligaments, and on the posterior tubercle is connected to the spinous process of the second by the supraspinous ligament, and on the side is the ligamentum flavum. So this is the axis, and this is the atlas, and this is how the vertebral artery enters this. Now, after this, you see this is a diagram which shows you separated. So this odontoid process would be lying here, and the atlas would be able to rock like this and like this onto this atlanto-axial joint, axis and atlas. Atlanto means atlas, axial means axis, atlanto-axial joint. On the atlanto-occipital joints, you will have the movement like this, the flexion and extension of the head. So these movements you must understand. Now we go on to the other part, and this other part is the other cervical vertebrae, which consists of a spinous process, the two lamina, the facets, the vertebral body, the transverse processes which are notched like this. They have a vertebral and a costal element, and there is the intervertebral foramen, and in this intervertebral foramen is lying the vertebral artery, and here is lying the spinal cord, and here is the posterior longitudinal ligament, and here is the anterior longitudinal ligament. Here is the ligamentum flavum on both sides, which is combining to form the interspinous ligament, and above it is the supraspinous ligament here. So this is a typical cervical vertebra. The most important thing about the cervical vertebra is that here is the body of the cervical vertebra. Here is the superior facet. Here is the lamina and the spinous process. Here is the inferior facet, and here is the intervertebral foramen. Supposing we make the other one here, then this is the superior facet of the lower vertebra, which is articulating with the inferior facet of the upper vertebra. And here will be the cervical disc, and from here is emerging the intervertebral foramen. So the nucleus pulposus of this disc can herniate through this degenerated disc in cervical spondylitis, and it can press on these nerve roots. Secondly, here will be the transverse processes. You are seeing the end on view, and the vertebral artery would be rising like through these transverse processes like this. So this disc can also affect the vertebral artery, causing a vertebrobasilar syndrome. Another thing that can happen is that we'll make this facet like this. What can happen is that the upper vertebra can go forward in a dislocation, and its facet, which is lower facet, which is here, this is its upper facet, here is the vertebral body. So this facet can lock, and that will prevent a dislocation. So you have to remove this facet do a facetectomy so that you can reduce it. So this is the importance of these facets. Here is lying your vertebral artery. Here is lying your intervertebral disc, which can herniate. Here is the spinal cord. Here is the spinal cord. Here is the root passing through this. And this disc can affect both the artery and the nerve root. So this is the anatomy of the cervical vertebra. Now this is the thoracic vertebra. You see the spinous process, you see the laminae, you see these facets. And these, this is the lumbar vertebra. We'll make the thoracic vertebra here. You see, this is the spinous process, the lamina. The facets are horizontal. So these horizontal facets, facets are in the coronal plane. So they allow a movement of the spine like this. All right. Then this is the transverse process. These are the pedicles, and this is the thoracic vertebral body. Here is lying your spinal cord, and here is lying the disc, and the nerve root is going out like this. Here there is the rib articulating with it. So the rib has a vertebral body articulation and a costo-transverse articulation. So if you see that this is the transverse process. Supposing this is the transverse process, this is the articulation of the rib. So this movement of the rib is called as pump handle movement. It increases the antero-posterior diameter of the chest. And when in the lower vertebra, the vertebra is moving both from the sternal and the vertebral end. So this is called as the bucket handle movement, and that increases the transverse diameter of the chest. So this is the posterior view. Here you see the spinous process connected by the interspinous ligament and the supraspinous ligament. Here will be the ligamentum flavum, and at this point you find this area where the transverse process and the facets connect. This area, this corresponds to the pedicle. So if you pass a screw here at the junction of the transverse process and the spinous process, then it goes into the vertebral body. So this place is the mark of the facet. Okay. Then we go on to the lumbar vertebra. The lumbar vertebra has got a pedicle, has got facets in the sagittal plane so that you can bend forward and backwards as the Japanese salute each other. Then this is the transverse process, and this is the spinous process. The vertebra from L1 to L5 are in a lordosis. This is the intervertebral foramen, very important, because this is L4, L5 and L5S1 are the common discs to prolapse and press the nerve roots here. Condition is called as prolapsed intervertebral disc, and the commonest area is here, because here the maximum weight is being borne by these discs. So here, to take it out, you may have to go through this root, shift the cord this side, and go from here and remove this disc which is here. Thank you.